one common mistakes you see kind of aspiring designers making nowadays?
If you're putting in the work, then you're not aspiring, you are. There's like a lot of discourse around AI is gonna take my job, but I feel like even if that were something that is true, I think we are very, very far from that being a reality. Boot camps and certificates are really popular, but that's definitely not the only way. There is a lot of information that is free, there's free resources out there. All the planning and other things that are happening before that end product, they kind of just see the wireframes or like the pretty screens. People might not know the thought process, the strategy. I would tell my younger self, like, fail quicker. You are really quick in just trying things and failing and realizing, oh, okay, that's not the way to do it, but you just keep repeating that process, you get to the right answer quicker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Design Hat Podcast. Today we have another wonderful guest with us, Semire, who has worked with amazing brands here in Canada, and currently she's working with one of the big banks in Canada as well. And we're going to talk about her journey, how she grew to where she is now, and what challenges did she face and how she overcame it. Awesome. So let's welcome her on the stage. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Awesome. So let's just start with a bit of your introduction for the audience out there.
Yeah, for sure. So a little about me. I come from a background of kinesiology and ergonomics. I transitioned into UX around 2019, and I came through UX kind of by my ergonomics post-grad certificate that I did. So I had a human computer interaction course, and that's kind of where I found out for the first time how cognitive ergonomics intersects with UX design, user experience, and that's kind of how I found my passion. And then fast forward to now, I've been working in UX for 3+ years, and I'm excited to see where my career goes.
That is really amazing. Awesome. So, let's just start with one of the basic questions that your background is in ergonomics and kinesiology, which is typically not the route that people who are coming into UX take.
Mhm.
Uh, how would those experiences have shaped your way to approach product design?
Yeah, for sure. I get it a lot when I tell people that I have a kin background, and I feel like for me, how it's shaped my approach in product design. So, kinesiology, ergonomics, they're all very human centric. And ergonomics specifically, we had this saying that we refer to a lot where we say, don't fit the worker to the job, fit the job to the worker. So again, it's just always having that human-centered approach really helped me, and I felt like was an advantage when I did switch to UX, because I still had that same philosophy, not just putting the user at the forefront and figuring out, okay, what is their pain point? What are we trying to solve? How can we make this product work for them, rather than trying to just release some cool, fancy thing that nobody asked for. So I feel like that's kind of how my background has impacted my approach when I switched.
No, that's amazing. But do you think even nowadays, when you're designing something,
Mhm.
is there specific things that you learned in those two fields which you still implement in some or what way here?
I would say just like with ergonomics, I feel like there was a lot of questions that you had to ask basically when you're trying to get down to the issue, when you're trying to optimize the workplace for the worker. So I feel like my curiosity and like my problem solving that I had to kind of build up through ergonomics kind of transferred over. Because yeah, now like I'm really good at, I feel like, asking the right questions when I'm in meetings with stakeholders to figure out like what are we really trying to get to, like what is the actual problem, not like surface level what do we think the problem is for the user. So I feel like that's something that kind of transferred.
No, that is amazing. I want to stay in this domain and I want to go back here as well. Why did you actually decide that you want to move from these two fields rather than kind of staying here and kind of building a career in that field?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like it's a combination of my nature versus my nurture. So by nature, I've always been really creative. I've always been drawn to just like creating art when I was younger. Everything in school, like the art, the subjects that related to art were the ones that interest me the most and the ones I really excelled in. I was also like good in the sciences, but it just wasn't where like my main interest was. But everyone in my family was in the sciences. So that's also what I grew up around. And I went into kinesiology because I'm like, this feels safe. This feels like it's something that will yield some kind of career, even though I didn't know what I wanted at the time. And my older sister had also gone into kin, so I knew a little bit about what to expect with that. So I did it, and it was interesting. Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, the challenges, everything I was learning, but there just wasn't like a passion. Like I wasn't super charged up in the morning to be learning about those stuff. So that's why I decided to do more school. And then I did my minor, which was in ergonomics, and I followed that a little bit more to dig deeper and see if there was something there that would spark some interest for me. And what I realized was that with even ergonomics, the physical realm of it didn't interest me as much as the cognitive realm of it, which is where UX intersects with ergonomics. So I feel like I was just more intrigued by the problem solving, not on like a physical plane, and then having the ability to also now pull in my creative side. It just felt like a mending of two things that I really enjoyed into just like a perfect recipe.
No, sounds great. I think definitely a lot of people watching, if they are in the field like in kinesiology or ergonomics, they can kind of relate to this as well. Uh, Going forward, you definitely have worked across various industries. One of two of the big banks here in Canada, BMO and TD as well. What do you think are the biggest challenges when designing like financial products, and how do you kind of tackle them?
I would say the biggest obstacle I think is not even really anything to do with the design. I think it's more with getting buy-in from stakeholders, especially in like large organizations, like one of the big five banks. There's just a lot of moving parts. Like money is something that's really personal, of course. So there's always going to be a hierarchy of people who have to sign off, who have to understand what the problem is, who the user is, and oftentimes you're so far removed from that. So you really have to be able to bring home why this is something that should be pushed to the users and backing that up with research and with data. So I feel like getting buy-in from stakeholders is the harder part, not necessarily the solutioning for the actual problem. And I feel like that's where like storytelling skills becomes like a really key thing, and just being able to like manage stakeholders, answer their questions, they're like understand that they're thinking from a business point of view, like how are we going to make money, and you're coming from the user's perspective, like how are we servicing them, but then also making sure that the business too is doing well.
Interesting. And do you think finance is generally more challenging as compared to other area industries that you have worked with?
I have worked mainly just in finance, so I can't speak too much to other industries, but I do feel like just with the nature of money in itself, that finance, I feel like would probably have finance industry would have a lot more red tape than maybe, I don't know, like another industry like education might not have as much red tape, but I feel like everything is really regulated with all these banks, especially when you have five. So there's just like a lot more kind of hills to go through for that one.
No, true. I think, especially in Canada, I think because banks play a big role in the economy here, there is a lot of force, and it's quite big. I think it's not small as compared to some other countries. So I would say definitely a single thing that you may do can impact a bigger piece of the pie, and that is very interesting to see. Awesome. So going forward, you emphasize like a data driven approach to your design process. What's kind of your framework for using kind of data to make these design decisions, and if you can give like an example where you have actually applied it, that would be great.
Yeah, I would say that I try to always start off with secondary research. So, whatever research we already have available in that problem space before deciding if it's even necessary to do primary research and then what type of primary research is needed. I just feel like taking that approach kind of saves resources and time, energy, because usually you don't want to just rely on what you've done. You want to also see what other people have done in that space as well too, to also like get better support when you are going back to the stakeholders and saying, this is the decision why, this is the reason why I made this decision, this design decision here, or this is why I believe we should go in this direction and not another direction. And this was like something that I do for a lot of projects, whether it's like a large scale, small scale. I was on the team for a large scale project in one of the banks for like a homepage redesign. Yeah, we obviously did research, but I wasn't there to begin the project with them. So I had to rely a lot on secondary research that was done and just look at what was there and what we were able to leverage when we were making changes to the work that was already done in order to get stakeholder buy-in to be able to launch it.
No, definitely interesting in terms of how you use data to kind of get the buy-in for different stakeholders. What do you think are more strategies people can actually use when, in layman terms, kind of defending their design, defending their decisions with the stakeholders which may have bigger power as compared to them?
What strategies?
Yeah.
I can't think of any like strategy in particular other than just like come with a plan, right? So whatever, like you should know kind of off the bat what the business KPIs are, so key performance indexes, and make sure that the solutions that you're coming with are being mapped to actual needs that have been identified through your research for customers, and that you're also able to map them back to how putting through this the solution is going to positively impact this business KPI. And I feel like that's what they need to see kind of to be able to go along and continue and want to hear more, as long as they know that you're still keeping in mind what the business kind of brought forward. And then also bringing back as well to the research that you did on your own or the research you leveraged from what other people have done, I think will build like a strong enough support for them to want to listen and want to buy in.
No, sounds definitely great. I think uh, stakeholder buy-in is quite important, and I think it gets a lot of time daunting to convince someone that what you have done is really amazing. That's definitely interesting. Coming, I don't segue towards my next question. That you definitely have worked across a lot of large scale, like high visibility redesigns, especially for the financial platforms. uh, how do you approach making kind of impactful design decisions when millions of users are involved and are at stake, and every change kind of really matters?
I would say definitely leveraging user interaction data. So, like looking at kind of what you already have, like what is the click through rate on this page? How long are they on this page for? Like, what is working, what's not working? I feel like leveraging that data initially is really important before even trying to come up with your hypothesis and your solution. And then when you do kind of go back to the drawing boards and you are thinking of the design, okay, what can we improve? I think another really key thing is leveraging A/B testing to be able to make like quick decisions about, is this going to work or is this going to work, before actually putting something through that everybody is going to see. I feel like with a lot of bigger teams, they usually have like a separate team that does that. So like working with them to do that and let them know kind of what it is that you're trying to see. Like if we put this button here, will it impact the users in this way? Or if we kind of switch around this content in this way, like will it do this? So that they know when they're doing the A/B test, what they're looking out for. And I feel like just doing multiple things like that repeatedly will give a lot of insight to make sure that what you finally do put out for everybody to see, you like feel confident about it.
No, definitely interesting point of view from your side. Uh, Very interesting. Do you, a quick curious question, do you see when kind of designing these features and when they get out, and when you're able to see that impact, does that kind of, is there like feeling that kind of makes you feel that, yeah, I have did that and that makes me feel really amazing?
Definitely. I feel like depending on what it is, there's different levels of emotion that I go through. I'm sure like my first thing that I ever did that went live, it was like, whoa, I can't believe I did that. But then yeah, you start to get used to it a little bit, but definitely still like I feel some level of like pride in the work that I've done and the team that I've worked with, because we know only us, like the team knows all the hoops that we had to jump through. Everybody just sees the final product, but we know that it took several meetings, several, reworking, all these different things. And I like seeing the finished product, knowing like how it took to get there.
No, definitely. I think as a designer, generally it's very difficult to see kind of your impact depending on organization to organization. But I agree. I think depending on project, when you see that you did something and it helped either the business or it made user feel amazing, oh, that is a amazing feeling out there. Awesome. Going forward, so you also worked as a UX design mentor at Attila, and you have obviously, I'm assuming, mentored a lot of other folks as well. What's one common mistakes you see kind of aspiring designers making nowadays, and what are the ways they can change or do things to avoid that?
I feel like the key mistake, or I think something that could be a setback that I see people doing, is actually using the term aspiring. I feel like if you're if you already have the mindset and you're already, you're putting in the work, then you're not aspiring, you are. And I feel like you have to kind of step into that. If you want people to see you that way, you also have to see yourself that way and present yourself that way, whether it's online, in conversations, when you're networking. And that's a feedback I've gotten before, because I myself, when I was starting off on my LinkedIn, like my bio where it has my title, I put aspiring UX designer. And I had a friend tell me, like, take that off. Why do you have aspiring? You are a UX designer. You're not aspiring. You're doing all this stuff. So you are. And I think that's something that's just really key in, people who are starting off. I know it's like really daunting, and there's obviously, all this competition and all this noise, but just being sure in the fact that you are doing the work. So you are that, and you need to just own that and be confident in that. And, people will see that.
No, interesting point of view. I still remember I read a very similar post early days in my career. People were saying you people write budding, aspiring, uh, and so I remember somebody senior wrote, "You are never aspiring. You you may be too junior, but you just got into it." It's if you always say aspiring, it's maybe a psychological thing as well. You will always stay aspiring. You
Mm-hmm.
will never kind of up the ladder. You can never kind of make the move to kind of do something. But that definitely a great point that people should take care of about. Uh, Going forward, uh, what do you think, by the way, in another terms, in terms of learning design, what is one big mistake that you have seen with younger designers try like making nowadays?
Um, I can't really pinpoint a mistake, because I don't think it's a mistake per se, but I feel like maybe something that holds back a lot of designers is feeling like there's only one path or one way to be able to build your skills. I know boot camps and certificates are really popular, but that's definitely not the only way to get experience, to build the skills, to build the confidence. So I feel like if that a boot camp or a certificate is not something that you're able to do or not within your means, not letting that stop you from pursuing the career that you want, because there is a lot of information that is free. There's free resources out there. There's people you can talk to. There's groups you can join. So there's always a way to do it, even if you don't necessarily go through, like, I guess, official boot camp or official certificate. It doesn't make your knowledge any less valuable, how you acquired it. So I feel like that's something I would encourage people to do. If you can do a boot camp, that's great. If you can do a certificate, that's great. But if you can't, don't let that be the thing that stops you or makes you feel like, you don't have something to bring to the table.
No, definitely very interesting point of view again. I think people definitely would kind of take it back and kind of learn from it. Going to the next part of it. So your experiences kind of include both UX research, UI design, kind of mix of that as well. How do you kind of balance kind of the usability research with kind of creating something which is very aesthetically pleasing, like visually appealing, uh, in terms of design?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say that I balance it by like starting off really with like this like the lowest fidelity, so that I'm able to just focus on the research and how that is going to impact the user flow and the information architecture and all of that, before kind of diving into the visual aspect, the colors, typography, visuals, all of that, which I feel like research still informs the visual aspect in a way. Depending on who your target audience is going to affect kind of the final visual presentation of the app. But I definitely do like to kind of separate them and focus with the lowest fidelity first, so that I know that I'm not just designing something that's pretty. There's also, it makes sense. There was a flow, there was a logic. I was able to still like impact the design with the research. So yeah, definitely starting off with the low fidelity and then gradually working up to a higher one.
No, I think definitely something interesting. Is there some particular way you do your research which may help you find some insights which makes it easier for you to design something amazing?
I wouldn't say there's a particular way. I feel like I'm also a little bit rusty because I haven't done my own research in a while. Like when I was just doing personal projects, for sure, I was doing my own research, but then working in like larger organizations, you have like dedicated research teams or dedicated researchers. So I've been a little bit hands off on the research side of things for a while. So I can't say there's like a particular thing that I do. I feel like just starting off super broad, in terms of the scope, and then narrowing down just through asking questions and figuring out like where is the focus meant to be, would be, I think, my approach.
Very interesting. Another thing, maybe just to follow up, as you said, that you do, I'm assuming you collaborate with a lot of UX researchers in these big teams. Uh, like, how do you do that, and what do you think somebody who is trying to collaborate with like in big tech with a UX research team, how they should do it?
I wouldn't say there's any like one way to do it. The way I approach collaboration, working with anybody, is figuring out how they work. So this would be like on a person by person basis, not necessarily like UX research with versus UX design. But I know that research is not my area of expertise, so I will always default to them and let them lead. But I would come with my ideas as well too, as to what I'm curious about, what it is I'm trying to learn, and then leave it to them to be able to, take that away and figure out what is the right questions to ask, figure out what's the right research method to use, and then kind of just working as partners in that and going along on that.
Okay, very interesting. Uh, Going forward, I do want to ask in terms of what do you think the future looks like for UX, keeping in mind that AI, a lot of automation, is kind of reshaping how fintech and UX kind of looks like. Where do you see the future of this uh, kind of going on in maybe next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, AI, I feel like is definitely going to be normalized more in like in our workflows and using AI just to speed up certain processes. I feel like right now it's still like people know about it, but it's not like a normal thing in our day to day yet in terms of design. I feel like on like a larger scale, people use it for their personal projects, but I don't think it's something that is being used within companies. So I feel like that's something that'll be normalized more. And I feel like designers need to get comfortable with using AI. I know that there's like a lot of discourse around, oh, AI is going to take my job. But I feel like even if that were something that is true, I think we are very, very far from that being a reality, because there's still so much around AI that we don't know, or that we have to figure out how it's going to be used in an ethical way, in a controlled way. But I do feel like that fear of like, oh, AI is going to take my job comes more from just the unknown. So I would encourage people just to get comfortable with AI, to learn about it, because I feel like that would take away a lot of the fear, which is when you understand it more, what it can be used for, how to use it, how to leverage it. And yeah, I feel like it would just make you even more competitive, because I think that's what's most important. Is just like kind of staying up to date on what's going on. Like you don't want to fall behind.
No, I totally agree. I obviously AI is something you want to learn, not kind of go against, because that is definitely you agree to it or not. That is definitely something taking into account in the future as well. That is amazing. Let's go kind of do kind of a rapid fire round. And then I have one last question before we kind of end the podcast. So, yeah, so let's do a one amazing rapid fire round. I just have few, three, four questions, quick ones. You can explain your answers if you want, or you can leave it as it is. That's up to you. All
Okay.
good?
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So, what's one fintech app that is amazing at its UX?
Well, it's simple.
Hmm, interesting. Anything that you would want to explain?
I feel like honestly, they've just hit the nail on the head in terms of ease. Like they've taken something that's really daunting, a topic that's really daunting, which is investing, and made it so simple that literally you could give it to your like 12-year-old niece and they could probably figure it out. So I just feel like the fact that they made it so easy to use, they made it intuitive, they made it even like enjoyable, is just a really cool thing.
No, fully agree. Awesome. So the next one is, what's the most underrated UX skill?
I feel like it is storytelling. I know it's like something that is, it's like a buzzword, like it's floating around a lot, but I don't know if people still fully grasp the depth of it, like how important it is, and how that honestly, I think is should be the forefront of what you're trying to learn in terms of skills, because I feel like that is a lot harder to perfect and to like just get it really clean than it is to pick up like other UX skills in terms of like the visuals or the research.
I totally agree. I actually was hoping that you would answer that because I remember you did mention that in the starting of your the recording that storytelling is big part and how it plays a role in designing is very important as well. Awesome. So the next one, what do you think is the biggest myth about UX design?
That's hard. I don't know if I know any myths. I feel like maybe a myth would be that, I guess if you don't know much about UX, you might think it's just kind of about making things look pretty or like the end product, but people might not know the thought process, the strategy, all the planning and other things that are happening before that end product. They kind of just see the wireframes or like the pretty screens, but there's a lot before it gets to that.
Fully agreed. I think if I had to answer it, I would say even now, not too many, because I think there's much more awareness about UX design. But even now, I have met people who think that UX designers also know how to code.
Oh,
But
that too. Yeah. I forgot that's a big one. Yeah.
yeah, but obviously nowadays I feel, again, I was reading somebody else's a senior product designer. No, I think product design leader at a big organization, and he posed what could be the future looking like for product designers, keeping AI and everything in mind. And he said there are two paths that people would go for, because AI is making coding easier. There will be one path that people would take as a design engineers who would also know how to make like a quick MVP without involving engineering and other people. And another part people could take as a growth designer, where they would focus heavily on technically, like heavily on the business side of stuff, on how they can actually help business achieve their goals faster and better through design.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting take on how he's looking at the future of product design. Yeah. Aw- Awesome. So the last one, if you weren't in UX,
Yeah.
what career would you have pursued?
Oh, I'd be a professional dancer. That one's easy. Yeah,
With
that's like a passion of mine. I feel like I might still pursue it at some point. I've always loved dancing and performing. So I feel like in another life, I definitely would have been touring with artists, dancing on stage, teaching dance classes, and who knows, it might still happen this in this life.
Oh, I think this will definitely happen. You won't be doing UX forever and ever. So I feel either that can be a side thing that you would eventually end up making like a full time, or who knows. what happens.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Awesome. So the last question that I have, I ask everybody who comes on the podcast,
Yeah.
what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self if you were starting out design now?
I feel like I would tell my younger self to like fail quicker, you know? I feel that I was apprehensive to do a lot of things because of like, oh, I'm like, what if it doesn't work out? What if this? What if that? But I feel like when you are really quick and just trying things and failing and realizing, oh, okay, that's not the way to do it, but you just keep repeating that process, you get to the right answer quicker instead of dragging your feet thinking, no, it has to be perfect. It has to go this way. It has to, yeah, I feel like that would have definitely helped me maybe go for more opportunities or get more opportunities that I had let pass by because I was like, no, I'm not ready. Yeah, definitely feel quicker. Just try everything and you'll figure out the right thing. You'll figure out what works.
Totally agreed. I think try to do whatever you feel you want to do, and worry about if it works out nice or not later on. Yeah, I totally agree. Awesome. That is very amazing. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. I think your advice and insights were really actionable and would be really amazing to the audience who would listen to the podcast. And yeah, thanks a lot, kind of putting out the time, and thanks a lot for the viewers to kind of listening to the end.
Thanks for having me. It was nice chatting.
Yeah.